Hey guys, welcome back to another week of the KB article where we talk about business mindset, strategies, and discipline. If you're a business owner or a strategic person in your business, wanting to make decisions, this is the place for you. I am your host this week, Jordan Kinsler. Joining us is Robert Lopez with Freedom Travel. How are you doing this morning, Robert?
Doing great, Jordan. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I gotta say, I wish I could have slept in a little longer, but
Me too.
that is
Me too.
that is what it is. Yeah, you were up early this morning working, weren't you?
Yeah. Typically my office hours start around 8:30, but today was a 7 a.m. start, and there are days where my days will start at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So every
Okay.
day is something new.
Are you getting calls sometimes at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning from clients that need help if they're on a trip or something like that?
I do. I am their kind of their point of contact while they travel. So yeah, sometimes I'll get that 2, 3 o'clock in the morning phone call saying, "Hey, you know what? My flight's delayed. My flight's canceled." Or in certain cases, they're in a different time zone. So
Mhm.
you know what? It may be you know 9 in the morning there, but again, it could be 3 in the morning here, and so they reach out to me if there's a problem or concern, regardless of the time zone.
All right. Robert, we met like, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, and I didn't even know your office was on the backside of the Kinsler Brown office. We have an office, guys, in the same office complex, and here we are, like, so close, but so far, I guess. So that's good. We had an event recently where were able to catch up, and that's what brings us here today. You mind
Exactly.
telling us a bit about yourself, why you got into the agency world of things?
Yeah. So again, a little bit about me. Born and raised on the beaches of Southern California. So I could go to the beach first thing in the morning and then go to school right afterwards.
Sounds awesome.
I moved out here in the spring of '94. Shortly thereafter, had gotten married. Have three daughters who are great and also the pains in my butt at the same time. So
Yeah.
again, nothing new to that. Um, but I actually ended up getting into the industry at a very young age. I literally went from high school into travel school when it used to exist. And the only reason why I actually even considered that was my original goal in life was to own my own restaurant. I wanted to be a
Okay.
culinary chef. I wanted to go train at Cordon Bleu. Did all that. I showed the tuition to my dad. And he goes, no, I love you, but not that much. So um, I had friends of the family through my parents, of course, that they worked for the airline. So a lot of the old timers are ones that are no longer around, like Braniff, PSA, Pan Am, Eastern, um, TWA, US Air. And they said, you got a great personality. You're very bright, but you also seem to understand the technology that's kind of beginning to emerge. You really should consider it because I think you could go far. So I went through and did my research and my due diligence, found a um, travel school that was in the area of Orange County that we had just recently moved to. Made an appointment. My dad went with me, said, "Here's what you can do." They showed me the whole thing. He goes, "Here's your tuition." My dad said, "That I can help you with." Had a lot of support really from the get go, to the point where I got to excel, and they actually created a special class because the worst part of the industry at the time was technology. You have these old archaic, and I'm going to date myself if the gray in the beard doesn't sell it up already. Um, it looked like old Radio Shack TRS-80 bulky
Oh,
computers.
goodness.
Um, and that was just a 3 month course, just understanding it. And I finished it in 3 weeks. They said, you know what you're doing. Go. You can learn the rest. And so, about 2 to 3 months after I graduated, I actually started working for United Airlines, actually in my hometown in California.
Cool.
Say the
Um,
rest is history.
now, I don't want to date you back here, but you already said you have a gray beard. So it's been a while since you got into the business, and then when you started your own business,
Mhm.
back in 2014, correct? Is when you started your own business. Is that
Correct.
okay? What was the decision factor there? Yeah, why do you want to be self-employed?
Um, the reason why I wanted to be self-employed is it was actually partially a dream of my own and my dad's, that we together could run our own business. My dad worked for aerospace for 30 years. Um, Again, the company I don't think is even functional anymore, called Hughes Aircraft Company. So Howard Hughes actually founded that. Then he kind of moved around a bit, and he goes, "You've got a great mind, you've got a great passion, you've got the stubbornness and the confidence to do this." Um, the last agency that I worked for prior to starting Freedom Travel, our craziest period, our busiest period through a calendar year is January 2nd to Easter, because you're just off the holidays and everyone's like, here, we want to travel, especially here in the Midwest. It's cold and nobody wants to be here. So we were put in 80, 90, 100, 110 hours a week,
Hmm.
and try to take care of everything. Um, and it was more of, what have you done for me today? It was never good enough for the owner that I was employed by. So I decided at that point, if I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to do it for myself.
Hmm.
That something that the family as a whole could get behind. And so towards the very last quarter of 2013, I started really, again, doing my due diligence and checking into, how can I do this? I actually reached out to a couple of colleagues of mine who actually had left the agency I was at the time, that they had become an independent agent. And they said, you really need to check out these entities. And so I pulled out 401k money and said, okay, as I say, go big or go home.
Yep.
And I jumped into the deep end and said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And Freedom Travel began.
Nice, nice. Well, that's a good story. I know so many people that have actually like flushed out their 401ks to start their own business. And
Hmm.
that's a huge step. I mean, I think that's what's separating a lot of self-employed people from employed people. Not to bash on them in that fashion, but like you have to have a different mindset to do what you're going to do. You're willing to put it all on the line to make it to the next day to provide for your family. And that's evident when you went out there and you said, "All right, no more 401k." Like
Right.
here it is.
It is. It's a difference between a W-2 and a 1099. That's really what it comes down to, in the very simple, for me as an independent, is you have the guaranteed money. You can go in, put in your time. Here's your paycheck. Have a great week. Come
Mhm.
back and do it again. You've got your benefits and everything else like that. But an entrepreneur, a business owner, those, as you kind of said in the entry, those decision makers, you have to be bold enough and confident enough, even if inside there is that little voice screaming, "What are you doing? What, are you sure this is the right thing to do?" You literally sometimes have to drown that voice out and say,
Yep.
"I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it work, because if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it for me." So yeah, you have to have that different mindset to be a business owner.
Hmm. Yeah. So many first year business owners. What do they say it is? Most business owners fail within the first 2 years.
Yeah, they do. And even for my industry specifically, it's within the first 3 years. That's gonna what you're gonna do is gonna make or break. Um, if you don't know what you're doing, then that's what I've seen a lot. Is like, well, I don't know, what should I've done. They become their own worst enemy. And we hear and see things daily on TV or in social media, and surround yourself with the people who are there to help you, to guide you. And that even goes in the world of business. Uh, I've been lucky enough to have the right people around me at the right time to kind of say, pow, pow, slap you across the face, wake up, what are you doing? Quit shooting yourself in the foot. But yeah, that definitely is the a thing, is if you don't have the passion for what it is you're doing, especially, that is going to be almost your downfall right away. You're trying to do too much at one time, or you don't understand the business or industry you're in.
Hmm.
Luckily for me, I already had the knowledge of the industry. So going in, I knew how to do the job, but to actually operate my own business, I had no idea. So luckily, how I do mine is through a host. So they kind of become my Oz, as I say. They're the person behind the curtain. No one knows them, no one sees them, but they take care of a lot of my back office stuff. So then I can just focus on my day-to-day operations.
That sounds pretty nice. I mean, everybody's got to structure their own business in their own way, whatever's suitable to them.
Correct.
Um, so starting in 14, 3 years later was 17. Okay, so you've already surpassed the point of make it or break it. Like this is where everyone's dropping like flies.
Right.
So COVID hits in 2019, early 20. What was that looking like for you?
It was initially looking really good. First 2 years, it was a loss. Again, that's nothing unusual for a new business. Year three was actually close to break even. Year four, was looking even better. Year five, 2019, was like, wow. Again, you almost saw that switch over that you're going to make it, and you saw business is really starting to pick up. You're seeing the volume come through. You're seeing the sales come through. Then COVID hit into late 2019, 2020. It's like, okay, what's going to happen? Is this really going to be affecting us? Is it not? There was just so much uncertainty at that time. And then March 2020 happened,
Hmm.
shut the world down, starting in Europe, and then the ripple effect occurred. Um, I had some goals myself for myself as a business that if I could reach certain points, I myself personally would now see my business as a success. Um, in 2020, 2019 was a good year. Wasn't there? 2020, based off of forecast numbers, I should have reached my goals then. Obviously, that did not happen.
Hmm.
We became, you know, just doing this. What's going to happen? Or as you can see, I just decided to shave off the rest of the hair because it was falling out from stress anyway. Um, we became panicked because we hadn't seen anything like this ever, in
Right.
modern age. Obviously, you know, we what do we do? What can't we do? You had policies that were running left and right, changing every several hours, it seemed like, if not every day. And at that point, we ended up becoming not travel agents in booking travel. We became travel advisors, which is exactly what they changed our title to now. So, because we couldn't sell anything, we couldn't book anything, we had to educate our clients day in and day out. This is the world as it is, how to get from point A to point B. And that was, you know, all we could do. And if you didn't have, again, that ability to shift gears and turn on a dime, then you struggle. It was, again, just like the rest of us in the world, but for us in our industry, how do you make it when there's no money coming in because you can't
Hmm.
go anywhere? Um, we had to learn to adapt very, very quickly. Um, and even within the industry as a whole, we have to adapt because the world changes constantly. Um, but luckily we kind of got through. Obviously, we had some financial help, as many people did through some like the PPP programs and SBA and what have you. That was really kind of my part of my saving grace. I actually had, luckily, I will say, kind of my guardian angels with me. That there were some people who just said, you know what, I feel for you. I am so sorry. If there's anything that we can do to help you out, um, let us know. And when the time came, it said, hey, can you lend me a hand here or lend me a hand there? In whatever form that was, they were there. And so that was, I will say, by the grace of God, I was able to be one of the select few who survived the pandemic through that time. But
Hmm.
luckily, again, it all changes. People were eventually able to travel again. And so it was, what can I do to make sure I could get them from Omaha to wherever they were looking to go, not just safely, but accurately. And so I became more of an educator than necessarily a salesperson at that point.
Okay. So yeah, we were talking about how did you add value to your business and to your customers, and that's kind of the goal as Kinsler Brown companies with the KB article here is to bring value. to people in different facets.
Agreed.
So what that looked like for you was just educating people daily. Did you have a source? Like, were you posting on Facebook these updates? Were you just calling people and letting them know that, hey, this is changing? What'd that education look like?
The education came down to doing Facebook Live. That's what I did. I
Right,
actually
I
did it
remember
once or
that.
twice a week. So it was like, hey, welcome. Here's the world as it is this week. Um, I could have been literally on Facebook every day. Here's this change. Here's this change. Eventually, people would have said, "Okay, we're tired of this guy. Let's 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 kind of ignore him for a little bit." So it was a once a week, you know, Facebook Live that I did to educate all of my clients or all of my followers, unless there was something major that happened that required me to jump in online either before or afterwards. Um, Sometimes, it was something simple as just a phone call that people would call me saying, "Hey, what's going on?" But that was really, it was obviously at that point, some people didn't want to get together in person, some did. Obviously, we had the policies and restrictions at that moment in time. So Facebook was the easiest way to do it.
Hmm. Um, how about the growth mindset you had through this? I mean, there was a lot to be learned. Myself, with my business in the last 3 years, I learned a lot about regulations, how to create relationships through scarcity. People were scared, fearful even. I'm like, yeah, but we still got to get stuff done at the end of the day. So that growth mindset, that optimism, how did you maintain it through COVID?
Um, a lot of it partially was actually through the education I gave. You know, going through and just understanding, reading the articles kind of as you did. Here's this new regulation. How do you now take this and present this to people? Um, but it was actually in the turn of me sharing that information and educating people that I would get feedback from them, whether it was, again, live at that time, was it, an email, was it a text message, which is a phone call. Um, hey, thanks for all the great information. We really appreciate it. Please don't stop. You have to keep doing what you're doing because there's so much information and we don't know really where to turn to. So that really kind of gave me kind of another, you know, kind of stoke that fire again. Like, I can't do what my job entails, but I can do the next best thing. So when people are ready to eventually travel again, whatever that may look like, or however that may look like, I'm as prepared as I can be. Um, getting Having conversations with some of my sales reps and some of my vendors, like, hey, how are you doing? What can we do to prepare you? How can we do to support you? And that, again, it really wasn't, here's this great deal, or here's this, or here's that. What can we do to help each other? Because in the long run, it is, as they say, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Hmm.
And that is exactly what we did. Even to the point where we were calling or speaking with people in the hotel industry, people in the car rental industry, because obviously, again, part of travel was greatly affected. Um, and just knowing that at some point in time, we had to be ready when that dam broke. When, say, here, you can now go with better policies or fewer policies or no policies. You had to be ready. So it was, how do you continue to market yourself to show, as you said earlier, the value that we bring? And obviously, the biggest thing that we could do is, like, you can go to the internet. Yes, it's a great resource for everything, but it's not the be all end all.
Mm-mm.
I make the joke is, you don't go to a plumber to talk about your taxes. You go to the experts.
You come to
I
us.
know nothing. I don't pretend to know I know anything about finances or CPA or anything like that. That's why I go to individuals like you who understand this, because I don't want to know it. um, um, but yeah, seeing that, and then obviously talking with other business owners, like, what are you doing? How are you handling this? How are you handling that? We became each other's sounding boards, which really was just nice to know and hear people were in the same boat. we weren't alone. We knew we weren't alone, but when you are enclosed in your office or at home or whatever the situation was, that's all you knew from what we had known previously.
Right.
It was a great way to say, what are you doing to prepare? How are you ready to grow when this happens? And again, we slowly started seeing that happening, and we started to rely on other advisors as much as possible. Have you got this? Have you got that? Will you do this? Will you do that? And we've been lucky enough that we're there to still support each other. We'll jokingly kind of poke and prod, like, no, don't talk to them, or don't, no, I'm better than you. But in reality, we're here for each other, because
Yep.
during that time frame for us in our industry, that's all we had was each other.
Right. So me with my landscaping business, it was a lot of consulting other landscapers during that time. We were educating each other on different strategies, on even if it was just learning different techniques for work that we couldn't be doing at the time.
Right.
Fortunately enough, restrictions didn't hit us for too long, maybe like a month or two. But we were in the game most of the time, so we were fortunate in that fashion. You said earlier you had guardian angels, and I know this is just a community of people you have around you, and that is something so important to me, is keeping the right people in your circle, the people that are going to look out for you at the end of the day, and likewise, you scratch their back, right?
Exactly.
What's that look like, as far as building proper relationships, man? Um, are these people business professionals? Are they found in your personal life?
um I'd actually say it's almost an even split. Initially, it was more of the business professionals. Those relationships that I had built up over the time prior to the pandemic, of just saying, here's what I can do. Here's how I can help you, whether it's from a personal perspective or a business perspective. Are you taking that vacation for an anniversary? Are you trying to do a business trip to probably close a deal somewhere? And a lot of people really didn't quite understand how it affected us and what we do in travel. It's like, oh, I never thought about how that can affect you and how you sell to Mexico or how you sell to Las Vegas. Um, just like the weather, you've got that. We don't think about that snow in New York will affect what happens here in Omaha.
Hmm.
Um, I will say, unfortunately, a lot of people have their ideologies, and a lot of people just kind of, we don't want to, we're worried about ourselves. We're not really worrying about you. And again, and I understand that. But I would say initially, those guardian angels were all business owners. They were all entrepreneurs. They knew the struggles that I had, and they got to understand it better for my industry when we had able to have a call like this. Hey, let's talk on Zoom. Let's have a chat over the phone. And like, wow, it just kind of, we kind of blew each other's minds of what can happen to ourselves, just not personally, but professionally, when something on a global level affects us. They were, again, in kind and just giving me that kind of the cheerleader. You've got this. Keep doing what you're doing, and it will come to pass. Um, have you tried this versus that? Kind of as you said, we use each other to kind of help, kind of motivate us to keep moving forward. I had, as I said, my guardian angels who actually were able to even help me out financially. Say, you don't get any help. We're willing to help you. Now, I will admit, a pride thing really told me, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You know, but I kind of had to swallow that pride a little bit just to make sure that I was okay, not just for me personally, but also for my family. So they said, here, because we want to make sure your business is still around when the time comes. This way you're ready to go. So for those individuals, I am, again, and I say this with the most sincerity. I know some people maybe overdo it, because I was truly blessed to have those individuals in my life at that time.
Hmm.
Um, Personally, they have become now better friends than necessarily clients or in colleagues.
Right.
So it's nice to have that balance and that mesh between the two. Um, I have again a very, very select few in my inner circle who understood everything that was going on, that they are still there to this day to say, what can I do to help you? Are you okay? What's it really looking like compared to what we hear on the internet or
Sure.
on media, whatever the case may be? And again, I know that I can be honest and upfront with them, and they will give me their feedback.
Okay. Last really important thing here. Before I ask you some questions that everybody wants to get down to.
Of
What's
course.
what's why is it so important that a business nowadays is using travel agencies opposed to asking their secretary to start booking their travels?
Um, okay, this could actually be a 30-minute conversation itself, but I'll keep it
Let's
short.
keep it short, man.
um, um, really, even before the pandemic, I've heard the horror stories of people who used the online travel agencies like the Expedias and those guys. Some of them are friends of mine, where they bought a ticket and all of a sudden they go to try to check in and there's no ticket. Expedia never issued the ticket. And now they're scrambling to make sure, oh my God, what's going to happen? And they pay double, triple, quadruple the price than what they had weeks or months ago.
Yeah.
I am, and again, and I know what I'm going to say is cliche. I am the one stop shop. I am, hey, Robert, I need this, I need this, I need this, whether whatever it may be. You now have a face to face. You've got a name, you've got a number, you know who you're talking to when you have that question or concern or say, hey, I'm ready to book this. But from the business traveler's perspective, yes, I understand it. A lot of people love using their Chase card or their Capital One card, or they're loyal to Southwest or Delta or whatever the case may be. We want to build points and things like that. I'm just going to either do it myself or my secretary is going to do it, or the secretary's assistant is going to help them. They have a job to do. And I understand, I make the joke of, end duties as necessary that we see sometimes on job descriptions.
Yeah.
The reality is you have a job yourself that you need to do. There's a priority in life that you've got professionally. This is mine. If I can take that piece of the puzzle off of their plate, that they can go through and do that report, or help with whatever it may be that their boss needs or somewhere else in the company may need, then say, hey, here's this. This is what you asked for. Here's some options. Let me know what I can do to help. And then it's one less thing that they really have to worry about. They can delegate that information. And then at the same time is, instead of that executive calling their secretary again at 2 o'clock in the morning or at 7 o'clock at night saying, hey, can you change this? Can you do that? Let them have their personal life. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. I know some people live and die for the company and they're that loyal. But hey, just say, you know what? That's right. I can call Robert because he can take care of it. And I don't have to bother this person who I already burn out 40 plus hours a week, more than likely.
Right.
Um, so, and I know for a lot of people, especially after the last 2 years, seeing somebody who they can say, oh, that's Robert versus an 800 number. Because if you call an 800 number, you're never going to get the same person twice.
Oh,
So, and you're going to get probably, you call 5 times, I'll guarantee you 3 out of 5 times you're going to get a different answer or a modified answer between that.
mhm.
So knowing that people can come here to my office, sit down with me, or we can have a conversation, over coffee, whatever is great. So I always tell people, like, outside of the laptop that I'm on, this is my office. So when you're traveling, you have access to me 24/7. So that I am literally a phone call or text message away.
You like those new flip phones, man?
Yeah, I love this thing. So you go from here, lovely thing. So I got the
Y-
full. So it's
Yeah.
great. I love it because when my computer decides to be stupid or I forget to charge it, this is a great alternative to have.
That's awesome. Um, all right, here's what people are gonna ask, right?
Of
What's the
course,
best
bring it.
day of the week to book?
Best day of the week to book. So the unwritten rule is Monday night to Tuesday morning. And the reason I say that is because the airlines, the hotels, all then have actually had Monday to look at the reports from the weekend. And then they compare that to the previous weekend, the previous quarter, the previous year. It's like, what is the forecast? How are we looking? Okay, so let's make adjustments here to either lower, maintain, or raise pricing. And that's typically when you see it. Now, mind you, I'm not getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to book a ticket for somebody unless it's an emergency they need to get out of town. But that's typically what we see. And um, I'd probably say it's about 75% accurate.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll write that down. Uh,
Yep.
all right, and then if somebody were to use Mr. Robert Lopez with Freedom Travel opposed to doing it themselves, are they going to have better odds for increased seating or anything like that? I mean, what are the perks of going through you versus doing it myself?
Some of the perks, obviously, again, some of it is I just mentioned earlier. It's like here, who you're getting. You can delegate
Hmm.
that to somebody else versus you've got personal professional commitments. Go take care of that. That's your priority. That's your importance. That's your passion. This is mine. Sometimes, yes, and pardon me, we can find better pricing. Sometimes we can get a better deal here or there. Now, I will say if you need to say, hey, we want, pardon me, the best air available, I will tell you right now, if it's just air only, 99.99% of the time, I'm going to get the exact same rate as you.
Okay.
That's just true transparency. The benefit to that is, yes, because the airlines no longer pay us anything since 2007, 2008, with the kind of last financial crisis, we do have to charge a service fee. Now,
Hmm.
mine is fairly comparable, if not better, than what you will see at any other agency because mine's for one-time fee. New clients, air only is $20 per person, up to 4 tickets. Then it would go down to 15. Once you become a regular, it's now 25 and then drops to 20. But then at that point, again, you have access to me. If you're looking for that great deal for going for a quick getaway, I could probably find it better and faster than you because I have more resources than
Hmm.
what the public has. Um, International air, sometimes I can find better because I have access to contracts that you do not as the public. So again, little things that we can do to make the the planning process and the booking process easier and hopefully less stressful than if you were to try to do it on your own.
That's very enticing. Uh,
Yes.
I'll be calling you anytime I'm booking a flight now.
There
So
you go.
okay. Well, thank you for joining us this week, guys. I gotta let you know. Anytime I walk past his office, he's very busy. So if you need to get something done, travel's made. Probably want to call him sooner than later. Uh,
Agreed.
so, Robert, thank you for joining us. We'll be happy to have you back another time here. Yeah, I'll see you around the office next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll see you around the office, and I will wish you and your followers a very happy holiday season.
Thanks. Bye now.
Take care. Bye.